and gentlemen, I tell you something. Annotto Bay, you are special. You are special. Because when the Prime Minister of Jamaica finds his way here to be a part of an event for you, it underscores how special you are to him and how special this project is to him and to the people of Jamaica. So when I invite him, I want Annotto Bay to let the Prime Minister know how happy you are that he is here today. So ladies and gentlemen, to deliver the main address, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Michael Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica. Annotto Bay, and let him feel welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Delia, for your wonderful welcome. Allow me to acknowledge your Member of Parliament, Dr. the Honorable Norman Dunn. I was preparing to hand him my handkerchief. At a point in time, I saw his eyes welling up, about to tear, as he spoke feelingly about this wonderful town. Allow me as well to acknowledge all the members of the Parish Council who may be here, the Municipal Corporation. Allow me to acknowledge Dr. Wayne Henry, Chairman of the Jamaica Social Investment Fund and Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica. Allow me to acknowledge Mr. Omar Sweeney, Managing Director of the Social Investment Fund, and our special guest, Mrs. Leela Burunchik, Country Director for the Caribbean region for the World Bank. And of course, the most important persons in this ceremony, you, the people of Annotto Bay. This is a project of the government of Jamaica in partnership with our long-standing and trusted partners in development, the World Bank, for the benefit of the people of Jamaica, particularly the people of Annotto Bay. The World Bank has been with Jamaica from the outset of our independence. We rely on the World Bank not only for loans, but more so for the technical support that the World Bank affords us. This project is one example of the Partnership for Development. And this project is called the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project, of which the Annotto Bay Coastal Protection Project is a part of it. We have done coastal protection work in Kingston on the waterfront. We have built fire stations and improved fire stations right across Jamaica under this project. And now, I am pleased to be here today to open or hand over, whichever way you want to term it. But we have to have a ceremony to mark the completion of works to protect the town of Annotto Bay from rising sea level caused by the changes in climate. Now, for the people of Annotto Bay, they may appreciate quite readily the need for this work, because they would have experienced the sea rising to the point where it would come over onto the road. And the people here, from time to time when there is heavy weather, would also see the threat that the sea is posing to their buildings and to their livelihoods. But for those persons who have lived here for a long time, they would be able to say that the geography of the coastline has changed. Where they would have had quite a bit of seafront, of seashore that would have acted as a buffer between the sea and the road, and hence their property on the other side, that buffer is slowly disappearing. And therefore, we could conceive of a time not too far from now where this road, which is a key link between Kingston and the eastern end of the island, that road could be compromised. It is not a far-fetched possibility, because in Negril, we have seen the roadways there compromised by sea level rise. We have seen the road levels compromised in Montego Bay recently, when we had an epiphenomenal event that occurred where a northeasterly and a northwesterly weather event occurred, which caused the sea to override the seawalls, destroy the seawalls in many areas. In fact, destroyed the beach, the newly developed Harmony Park. So the threat of climate change, my friends here in the lovely town of Annotto Bay, is real, very real. Governments can't just sit by and say, well, it's just nature. Governments have to act, and governments have to build infrastructure that can withstand some of the natural occurrences of sea level rise and other weather and climate events. That is called adaptation, and in some instances, we also have to mitigate. Now, we are spending here 244 million Jamaican dollars. And that is from a loan from the World Bank. Now, the loan is not so much the important part. What is important is the technical cooperation. And the other important thing is the signal that we send to the rest of the world that Jamaica takes building resilience to climate seriously. Now, the way in which the government works with our development partners is that we have an entity. Well, we have two. One is the PIOJ, and the other is called the Jamaica Social Investment Fund. So when we take loans from the World Bank to do developments like these, they are usually channeled through JSIF, and then they are monitored by the PIOJ. So they work together to ensure that these funds achieve the objectives for which we borrow. It's one thing when you use your own money and waste it. It's another thing to borrow money and waste it. So we make sure that we have an entity that is using these borrowed funds to operate and manage in such a way that not $1 of that loan is wasted. So today we can stand here and say, because ultimately, even though it's borrowed, it's not a grant, it's not free. You are going to pay back for it. With every GCT, every property tax, every income tax, you eventually pay for it, granted, at very low interest rates and over a long period of time, which is why we borrow from the World Bank, because we call these development loans. So now, with the works that have been done, as you look out on the sea, you will see the groins that have been placed, and these groins are specifically designed to help to capture sand that is coming in from the sea. So as the waves come in, they bring in sand, and as they go back out, they help to capture. But they help also to slow down the wave action on the coastline. We have also done some other works along the stretch, 244 meters of works, which would include revetment. I noticed that they have put in some lovely walkways so that you have recreational and leisure areas that you can enjoy the seafront. But the real effect of all of this is that we have protected the town. Which leads me to make certain announcements here that I'm sure the people of Annotto Bay will find very useful. Annotto Bay has a long history. This town has been around from the Spanish occupied Jamaica. And the town was a port town. Ships used to dock here. And the reason for that, obviously, is that sugar was king, and we weren't consuming all the sugar produced, we were exporting it. There are several sugar plantations and sugar estates around this area. And so, whatever was produced, sugar initially and then bananas, would come into Annotto Bay. So the town of Annotto Bay essentially grew up as a port town to facilitate the shipment of sugar and bananas out of Jamaica. When those industries fell away, the town thrived on its own because villages and districts and communities rose up. And then this became the main road by virtue of history, not because it was properly planned. And I want all of you here who are residents and citizens here to, for a moment, step back from the reality of your town as you have seen it. Because I know that you have never really asked yourself the question, why is the road built so close to the sea? Why is the road built so narrowly with all the shops and market and everything right on the road? Why is the road built without any real sidewalk? You ever ask yourself? I know many of you grew up here and you just accept it. Well, it is just because of the history. It was always a little port town, one road. It wasn't really planned. It cannot be, therefore, that the generations that have followed from that, because it has been that way always, that we don't try to change it. If it is one thing that I am committed to do as your Prime Minister, coming from the post-independence era, is not to leave things as we have inherited them or as we have seen them. We must make it better. There is no reason why this road must stay here and be as narrow as it is and as close to the sea as it is. There is no reason. And that is why we have developed a program to make new routes around all the towns, because it's not just Annotto Bay. Think about it. Almost all our towns are close to the shore, because almost all of them evolved out of a port arrangement to ship sugar, and therefore the commercial activity around the port spurred the formation of the town. But now we have climate change happening, and many of these townships are going to be at risk. So we have to start to think now how we mitigate and adapt to this new reality. And that is why we have tasked the NWA to examine all our towns and to start to build new roads inland on higher ground. So if you look at most of the roads that we are doing and the developments that we are doing, you will begin to see that we are creating an infrastructure of highways that are built inland on higher ground to high standards. So that means that eventually you will always be able to go around Jamaica on our highway system. That's number one. Number two, for communities and townships like Annotto Bay, where the road is right on the seaside, we're going to move those roads inland and around the town. That's what we're going to do. And then we're going to find new land, and we're going to develop purpose-built urban spaces so that the town can grow and breathe, so that you can walk with comfort and ease, so that taximen can find designated places to park, so that people can go to the market and walk in decent circumstances, so that everybody doesn't have to be on the sidewalk or on the piers trying to sell. It is time for us to pay attention to our townships, because it is the townships in which you go to access the critical services. You come to town to pay your bill, you come to town to shop, you come to town to see your doctor, you come to town to catch the bus. And that space in which you have to function is not always comfortable. Sometimes you come, you vex. You can't find place to walk. Everything is in a chaotic state. The sewer is not working. The drain's not draining properly. And I know you have a drain problem right here because you are at or below sea level. So when the water has to come, it backs up because it confronts the water at the sea. So the water is actually coming up the drain and not going down the drain. So I know the challenges you face. We are not going to be able to change all of that overnight. But I want you to know that you have a government that understands the issues and that we are putting in place the measures to do it. So already we have started planning for another roadway that will go around the town, that will take off some of the traffic, because right now this is the only route. So we're going to create an alternate route that will take off some of the traffic. Now, once there is less traffic here, it means that you will have more convenience in your movement in your town. Because the truth is, I would say that possibly 70% of the traffic that passes through here is not going to stop here. But the mere fact that the traffic is passing through here, it impedes the business that you could easily be doing. Now, I also wanted to use this opportunity to point out that this is not the only revetment work in addition to what we have done in downtown Kingston. The situation in Hellshire, another little coastal area, it's not quite a town, but it is a popular destination and it holds great sentimental value for many Jamaicans. I haven't been there in a little while, but the last time I was there, I witnessed firsthand the damage that has been done. The beach is totally gone. And much of that has to do, yes, with climate change activities, but some of it also has to do with how we have fished in the area and how the reefs have been treated, and we have lost much of the reef there. I want the country to know that the Jamaica Social Investment Fund has been doing the studies regarding that problem in Hellshire, and we are very close now to taking some decisions as to what the government can do to intervene. Now is a good time to say to our partners from the World Bank that a renewal or a part 2 of the disaster vulnerability reduction project would be welcome. Because, you know, Jamaicans should appreciate that the challenges we have today, the binding constraint, is not financing. We could have financed this project out of our budget if we wanted to. Obviously, it would mean that we would delay doing another project. But there are some projects that you want to undertake with the participation of the development partners because of the great technical expertise that it gives you access to. And to treat with the situation in Hellshire will require the mobilization of not just local expertise, but international expertise to help us with reclaiming and revitalizing the Hellshire beach. And partnering with the World Bank also gives us access to other funding partners such as the GCF that we could and we do plan to approach for assistance in treating with this issue that we have at Hellshire. So I want Jamaicans to appreciate that your government is working on all fronts, in all areas. You will see me doing housing, you see me doing water, and yes, we pay attention to climate change, coastal issues, environmental issues. It is important that we do these ceremonies because there is a view in our country that nothing will go on. And it is understandable for this view to exist because the truth is, for a long time, for decades, nothing was happening for real. And it wasn't happening because you didn't have the economy to support it. Now, quite a bit is happening, but people still have the mindset that nothing is happening. People still look at the glass and they say the glass is half full. Now, it's a funny thing looking at this glass and saying it is half full or half empty. It is all about perspective. Perspective. When nothing was happening, the glass was empty. Something starts to happen now, and the glass becomes half full. Some people look at it and say the glass half empty. Now, if you say the glass is half empty, it means that you are looking at the glass, but your eyes are cast down. That means you are taking a downward look, a negative view of things. But if you look at the glass and you recognize that you're coming from the bottom and you know at halfway, where should you be looking? You should be looking up. positive. So I encourage all Jamaicans to, yes, never dismiss that even along this stretch, we haven't completed everything. There are still areas along this stretch which is at risk. But this area is no longer at risk. And so we can now use next year's resources, or as we have said, let's go into a round 2 of the program to address the other area. So if you lived here and you have benefited from this, then your posture would be okay. You would be positive. You would be fine. But we know how Jamaica is. Nobody's going to say, yeah, I benefited, so I'm all right. People are going to be remaining quiet. Who will be making up all the noise? The people who have not yet benefited. But if you allow that to form the narrative, then the perception will be that nothing has happened and no one has benefited. And so as a government, as an administration, we have a duty to you to inform you of everything that is happening, both what has happened and what is being planned. Because when you are informed, you are in a much better position to moderate and control emotions and behavior. With information, you are now logical actors rather than irrational actors. So I take the time to explain in excruciating details all that we are doing so that you can't say, boy, me never did know. And surprisingly, I'm coming from another event where the government of Jamaica with the European Union is doing some redevelopment work for the Castleton Botanical Gardens. And when those works were being done, they kept community sensitization, they informed the persons. But as I alerted the group that had gathered, I could see in their faces that many of them did not know that this was being done. And that is an issue in our society and in our population, that a lot of things going on, many persons just did not know. Everything that I have said here, I have said it before at other events, including that we are going to create an alternate route and create a new road. But again, as I said it, I was looking at the faces, and many persons are only hearing this for the first time. So it means that I have to keep on repeating the message, so that our population can get the information. So in summary, I wish to thank our development partner, the World Bank, for their financing and support for the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project. This project, the Annotto Bay Coastal Protection, is just one project in several. The project is being executed at a cost of approximately $244 million, and it has reinforced and protected approximately 244 meters of a needed 900 meters of coastline. It means, therefore, that the government will have to continue the development going the full way. So we will be back here again, maybe in another year's time, to do another amount. But we are not just going to depend on the revetment and protection works to save the town. We are going to be smart in our physical development planning, and we are going to create another road, another main road that will take the traffic that is not intended for the town to their ultimate destination, so that this town can grow and develop. But we are also going to identify additional lands where the town can expand into. This space, once it is freed up, we intend to develop it for the purposes of recreation and leisure. Ultimately, a new industry could be created here if this town was not so congested, you could have tourism happening right in this town. And that is the intention of our physical development plan, to allow the towns to develop other industries, including tourism, by making these towns accessible and maneuverable in comfort. We are going to be paying some attention to the situation in Helsha. We are hopeful that we can get the support of the World Bank, but if not, the government is prepared to finance and carry through that project directly, because we see it as a nationally important project. I want to also commend the efforts of the Jamaica Social Investment Fund and the PIOJ to ensure that these funds are used economically and efficiently to deliver benefits to the people of Jamaica and ultimately the people of this wonderful town. In closing, Annotto Bay is one of my favorite towns. I believe it has such great potential, such undiscovered and underutilized history that can be used for the economic and social benefit of the people. Your government commits to keep on spending and investing in Annotto Bay for Annotto Bay to realize its true potential. God bless you and thank you for listening.